The Jonathan Gannon effect is real. What do I mean? Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen. Free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. So I got a fun show today. There are some names tied to the Arizona Cardinals in free agency, which is weird. Let's be honest. Let's sing Kumbaya around the campfire and say that's weird because that's not normal. And it's something that we as media members and fans and everything in between aren't totally used to over the last decade plus, more, forever. Oh, look, a top free agent is tied to the Arizona Cardinals. Oh, it's not the Rams or the 49ers or the Seahawks or the Browns or the Steelers or the Ravens or the, whatever it is. The Texans have been a hot name the last two off seasons. No. The Cardinals. Interesting. I'll discuss it because there's a bigger effect that goes along with it. Secondarily, second segment, I'm going to continue this conversation around Marvin Harrison Jr. And I'm going to kind of put things into perspective here for people who don't think that he had a good rookie season. And it's not just predicated upon the numbers in his rookie season. It's the bigger picture. And there are some coaching moves. Cardinals let go of some coaches. Cardinals coaches have gotten looks elsewhere. Interesting. It's just interesting. So thanks for making, again, Locked On Cardinals your first listen. Go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals, hit the subscribe button, leave a like on the video. You know the drill at this point. I'm excited for this show. Okay, so first, Josh Sweat, Eagles, big pass rusher, 6'5", 240, 245, has been linked to the Arizona Cardinals. He's soon to be a free agent. He had just under 20 sacks in the 2 years with Jonathan Gannon in Philly and Nick Rallis. He's tied to the Arizona Cardinals. I think, he's ranked around the top 10 of top free agents in this year's, in this season's class. And that's cool. Be a big name that the Cardinals would snag. But the big thing here is, and I want to take 6 or 7 minutes to kind of put this into perspective. Jonathan Gannon has been perfect as a head coach since taking over. Okay. No coach is perfect. I'm not using that as a blanket statement. I'm using that as just, I find that people are a little bit more difficult on this coaching staff because of the strain over the last 10 years where it's like, oh, they were so close. Oh, they were so close, but. Oh, they were so close, but this happened. Oh, Kyler Murray. Oh, they were so close. Oh, injuries, whatever it is. So they had the free pass in 2023. Well, there's no such thing as a free pass. Yes, there is. And Kyler Murray's out for 10 games. Brand new regime. Never coached as a head coach, never coached as a DC, never coached as an OC. Okay? New GM. I think that most would say, unless you're an absolute Cardinals hater, which is fine, that's your right, that things have progressed nicely in the right direction, functionality-wise, culture-wise, just stability-wise, since Jonathan Gannon took over. I think overwhelmingly people would agree with that for the most part. Last year, there were some growing pains. And last year was the first year where there were some sort of expectations for Jonathan Gannon as a head coach, and he made some clear mistakes in key positions that he had never been in yet. And that's not an original story. That's not a pass. That's just what it is. A lot of it was on fourth down decisions, fourth down play calling. That obviously has to deal with Drew Petzing. But overall, Jonathan Gannon, as the football nerd kind of CEO head coach, but has a scouting background and is just a dog for football, that's on him. Okay. With all that being said, for the majority of things, it's gotten better. I think that's fair to say. With that doesn't just happen overnight. That doesn't just, I'm going to be a head coach, so now everything's going to change and I'm going to be a completely different person. No, this is who he's always been. When I say the Philadelphia Eagles are a statistical anomaly. Like, it'll be fascinating to see what happens at the Super Bowl. Saquon Barkley is an absolute menace. Like, we'll see what happens. But I still feel that when Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon left that organization, they lost their heart. And they're just playing off fumes at this point. It's not if, it's when it combusts. And we'll see what happens at the Super Bowl. If they win, fantastic, good for them. I'm not rooting against anybody. When Jonathan Gannon came over, and for fans of this show, everydayers, if you've been around since, day one, or, this is going to be my 9th season, holy mackerel. One of the things that I say is you can tell a head coach on the sidelines right when they put that headset on, game one. Couldn't tell with Jonathan Gannon. Cliff Kingsbury never looked like a head coach. He looked like a coordinator, and that's fine. Bruce Arians kind of 50-50. Jonathan Gannon on the sidelines looks like a head coach. It just does. It's the eye test. You can tell. And what he's done throughout his career is build a reputation that players love. And it's not that he's a player's coach. He's a history teacher. He's not a PE teacher. He's an English teacher. He's not a home ec teacher. He's the leader of that locker room from the coaching perspective. And the way he does things attracts players that are currently on his roster and those who have in past been a part of the roster that he's coached, whether it be as a DC or other positions. And that is something that is very new for an Arizona Cardinals head coach. Very rarely have you seen top tier, upper echelon free agents be tied to the Arizona Cardinals because of a tie with a coach who came from somewhere else. And that is something that was one of the byproducts that I was yearning for if the Cardinals did things the right way. Because the Cardinals have been under the bright light, in a sense, over the last 2 seasons of brand new reset of the organization. Let's see what these guys got. Because if they can build properly, who doesn't want to live in Arizona? I mean, come on. It's not expensive like California. You get sun 340 days a year. And all it needs is some functionality in its damn football department. Something that they haven't really been able to, put together pretty much ever. So when you see guys like Josh Sweat, when you see, Kazir White come over 2 years ago, that's because Jonathan Gannon was the head coach. It's the trust transfer from Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rallis in a new organization, but that trust is there from their last stop. And that is something that won't slow down. That's something that coaches either have or they don't. You're going to get mostly defensive guys who come over. I'm not saying Josh Sweat is going to sign with the Cardinals. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is having the Cardinals tied to any free agent is new. And the J.J. Watt thing, come on, nobody saw that coming. Let's be real. When he source me'd that tweet with him bench press with him squatting, it's like, stop it. Nobody saw that coming. Let's be honest. And the rest were all via trade, so it doesn't count. Nobody wanted to come here to play for Cliff Kingsbury. Nobody wanted to come here to play for Bruce Arians even. Like, name me a player or two, a top free agent that wanted to come over here to play for Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians was great. Nobody wanted to come play here because of him. If this is where it starts with Josh Sweat, and then the Cardinals win 10 games next year, this is the revolving door, the momentum necessary for the Arizona Cardinals to be perennially relevant. The passive income that is free agents wanting to come play here. And that's something that has been devoid of existence pretty much for the entirety of this organization's, existence. So seeing Josh Sweat even tied to the Cardinals, the dude would be a plug-and-play guy. Top pass rusher, would be perfect with B.J. Ojulari. Darius Robinson's job would get easier, and they'll draft around it, and then the Cardinals at least have some sort of centerpiece. Not a 0.1% guy, but a top 15% guy who can come in and make an immediate impact on this defense with a defense he's already familiar with after playing, 30 plus games in it a couple years ago. It's the big picture stuff for me. It's not the one player. It's how many more will want to play for Jonathan Gannon. And he's well on his way to talking about more players wanting to come play for him than less. And that is a bonus, and that's something we're not really used to here in the desert. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. I got to explain this Marv stuff. What do I mean? You got to stick around, man. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. The big game is almost here, and there's no better way to make it even more exciting than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings awarded, Prize Picks makes it fun and simple to get in on the action. Here's how it works. You pick more or less on at least 2 players' projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Prize Picks even has a free pick for the big game where one of the starting quarterbacks only needs to throw 1 yard to win. Plus, that with one more correct pick, and you're cashing out. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. You know that I love the big picture stuff because the big picture stuff is not just one, obviously, incident, which could be a coincidence. It could be an exception to the rule. If Jonathan Gannon continues to do what he's doing, and the Cardinals obviously need to win more games, make the playoffs, things like that, sky's the limit. Because I'll tell you what, as many, like the Eagles may have the most complete roster we've seen in 10 years, complete 1-22. Like I said a couple years ago that the Chargers had the most talented 1-22 starters, 11 offense, 11 defense, excuse me. But with Saquon Barkley over there, that offensive line and that front, like the Eagles drafts, the way that players have just dropped into their lap, that their ADP was like 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 picks higher. Like Quinyon Mitchell was supposed to go top 10. They moved in front of Chicago to draft Jalen Carter, like 2 spots, and they gave him whatever, a middle round pick. Cooper DeJean was supposed to be a top 20 pick, and he went in the middle of the second round. And yes, the Cardinals traded back. He plays the same position as Garrett Williams. Garrett Williams is better than him, in my opinion. So, like, that was Monty Osborne didn't punt on Cooper DeJean. They play the same position. And Garrett Williams he's the guy. So they didn't need it. Plus, they picked up a third rounder. If this continues, it could be very good for the Arizona Cardinals. I know that's very generic and very future pacing, but it's true. Okay. The Marvin Harrison Jr. thing. I'm still absolutely fascinated just by the whole thing. It's a great case study of a young man drafted very high who had the same rookie numbers as his dad, same touchdowns, and it looked at as like a failure of a season. Let's take a second here. Okay. Let's talk about the downsides first. One, talking about big picture stuff, there aren't any. Okay, he played 16 games. He went down, was in concussion protocol in the first couple minutes of the Green Bay game. So he played 16 games. He had a touchdown every second game. He had almost 1,000 yards receiving. He had I think it was 80 receptions, something like that. It was either 60 or whatever it is. I think it was 80. And when it worked, it looked great. Okay. Didn't look forced. Didn't look like, oh, that's busted coverage, except for the Rams' first quarter. It looked good. I think that's safe to say. Well, Drew Petzing's offense ruined his rookie year. No, it didn't. Oh, well, Kyler Murray and him were on the same page. Yeah. Then they got on the same page. And when they were on the same page, it looked fantastic. Just because, they didn't luck into getting on the same page. You take your elite talent of 2 guys who are on the same page, they make some plays, we saw it in the Rams game, and then you work on things. Remember, Kyler Murray looked for Marvin Harrison Jr. on 2 of the most important downs in this season. The comeback against San Francisco with the crossing route, he threw a 50-50 kind of ball. Marv went up and got it. Continued to drive. The Cardinals won the game. Miami, I think it was 3rd down. Looked for Marv, same play, same result. March down, scored. I'm going to do a little pop quiz for people. Oh, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, they look so much better. Let me ask you a question. How many games did the New York Giants and Jacksonville Jaguars win combined this year? 7. How many games did the Cardinals win? 8. Oh, cool. So maybe your boy who said Marvin Harrison Jr. was going to be the third option in this offense coming out of the gate, maybe I knew what I was talking about. The team over the player. It's his rookie year. They're going to figure it out. Drew Petzing's going to adapt going into next year. You think that he doesn't know that they need to get the ball to him more? You think that he doesn't know that they need to scheme him open more? Trey McBride's always open. That's going to benefit Marvin Harrison Jr. so much. You will see a different offense in 2024 or 2025. You will. It's the principles will be the same, but the reach will probably move 20-30%, you would think. Because when it comes down to it, you got to get your playmakers the ball. And they will. So the thing with Marv, I know, you used a 4th-round pick. And remember, for those that don't know, I was huge, like for 80% of the offseason. And there's plenty of receipts, trust me. I was on Team Trade Back. Winning organizations do not draft a wide receiver in the top 5. Calvin Johnson, one of the best ever. How'd that work out? Larry Fitzgerald, probably the exception. Because Larry Fitzgerald, I think, let's be honest. If you put Jerry Rice with those quarterbacks, we can have a different conversation. If you put Terrell Owens or Randy Moss with those quarterbacks, we can have a different conversation. Fitz was great. I was on Team Trade Back, especially with Minnesota having 2 firsts. Move forward, you get 2 firsts back. Yeah, there's so many holes on this team. Wide receiver was like the 5th biggest need, and there was a need there. That's how bad this roster was after 2023. But then I was like, you know what? You take the best player available at 4. He could be a transcendent talent. And the most important thing for me was not only you're going to get hopefully a top flight wide receiver on a rookie scale contract for 4+1 years, maybe depending on contract negotiations in year 4. He's going to be the 3rd option. He's not drafted to save the offense. You've got James Conner. You've got Trey McBride. You've got Kyler Murray's legs. You've got Michael Wilson. Michael Wilson's a wide receiver too. I'm sorry. He is. He just needs to get more touches. Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. were drafted to save the offense. So yeah, they're going to get more touches. Yeah, they're going to get more looks. They're going to get more deep ball threats. Those teams are terrible. Marvin Harrison Jr. was part of a stable, foundational front. And I know it's weird to say for the Cardinals, but he was. Having almost 1,000 yards, which is still a stupid moniker for running back. It's like 60 yards a game. Like, he's a 1,000-yard season. Yeah, that's not great anymore. They've added 38 games a season to where that actually mattered. But it's still, so we still use it. He played fine. He wasn't Kevin White. He wasn't John Ross or Jalen Reagor or Nelson Aguilar. I think the expectations for people were so high because he drafted next Larry Fitzgerald. Why? It's unnecessary pressure for a team that's already so fragile during the rebuild process. He played fine. He was the catalyst in many of their wins to, if not extend drives, but score touchdowns. And he's a work in progress. Not all of it happens right away. So again, while I was in the camp for a good portion, the majority of last offseason, during the free agency and the draft cycle, that they needed to trade back if they were given that sweetheart deal, them taking him, that's the downside is you get one of the better young receivers. He was an offensive rookie of the year. Look at how many players on that offensive rookie of the year that aren't quarterbacks. Look at their win-loss record for their team. Proof is in the pudding right there, baby. Coaching moves. Wow. Cardinals coaches are getting looks elsewhere. What does it mean? Discuss it next. That was a stupid inflection. I apologize. I'm embarrassed. Next. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by our friends over at TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you're going to get any money back. And then wondering and worrying some more. Now taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives you, taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, and everything with 100% accuracy. All you can do is wait and get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now, this is taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantee. So, I'm trying to build this this amphitheater through which you can see the present and future of what this organization could be. Okay. My head isn't in the clouds. I'm not riding a unicorn with rainbows and butterflies coming out of my keister. Okay. This is trend. I'm using trends as a foundation. And trends aren't one or two games. Trends aren't starting 7-0 and then being ceremoniously removed from the playoffs because of the embarrassing down the stretch performance, injuries or otherwise. You're starting to see say the Cardinals are the enemy just for a second, and there's a castle in the middle. You're starting to see the castles the playoffs. Yeah, here we go. I'm doing this on the fly. You're starting to see the enemy stalk the outskirts of the castle. Okay. If things continue the way they are, the Cardinals will pop in 2025. We got a free agency class. We've got a draft class. Things are moving in the right direction. And lest we forget, that is very rare for this organization, for things to be moving in the right direction. It's just the truth. So there's some coaching moves that happened. And defensive line coach was let go. Shocker. We've had a couple offensive coaches get coaching offers, or not coaching offers, coaching interviews for OCs elsewhere. Other positions in other organizations. This is where the tweaking happens for the coaching staff. The offensive coaching staff remains the same, and I think it should. This part is going to manicure itself as perfectly as possible to pop next season. And yeah, sure, we'll have the Kyler Murray conversation if need be. I'm not forgetting that. It's in the back of my head, okay? I'm not giving him a pass. I'll tell you this. Let's put it this way. For the anti-Kyler Murray people, I'll say this for you. I don't believe this, but I'll say this for you. Well, no, I do believe this, but I'll say this with Kyler Murray thrown in this way. Just let me get it out as I argue with myself. Hashtag no editing. Regardless of who the quarterback is in 2026, this team will be ready. Because this team's going to be ready this year. I trust Monty Osborne implicitly to spend the right amount of money to bring in the right players to crush another draft and have the Cardinals move up in the ranks of the NFC West with a wildly uncertain who's going to take the NFC West in 2025. Wildly uncertain. Because it's funny. The only team, I think the Cardinals will be second, but the only team who has absolute bona fide trust in their quarterback is the Rams. Brock Purdy, Geno Smith, Kyler. Who would you pick to win one game? I'd still pick Kyler out of those two. If you give an average roster, I would still pick Kyler. Kyler has the most special in him, the most game-breaking in him. So when you look at the coaching staff, it's moves here, little things here, little things here. This is the manicure phase. This is the tweaking phase. And with added talent on the defensive line, Bilal Nichols and Justin Jones are coming back, okay? Again, they had a very good track record of being healthy with the Rams and with the Bears, respectively. They're good locker room guys, okay? You can't roll out Dante Stills and Roy Lopez as your front lines in the interior defensive line. You add a pass rusher. You move Darius Robinson inside, assuming he'll play over the guard more next year. You draft a guy, potentially what they do at 16, even though I think it should be offensive line. And you're off to the damn races. Coaching will never be more important than it is in 2025. Drew Petzing needs to figure it out. Nick Rallis. Nick Rallis has been obviously the best coordinator. Even though there have been pops, like Drew Petzing has had less to work with than the defense has played out of their shoes in the last two seasons. It's looked very different because there was more talent this past season. It was a bunch of young guys. Like Buda Baker's best year ever. Now, Nick Rallis' challenge after adding some pieces is make this defense top 5. And I have complete and utter trust in him that he's going to be able to pull it off. Because all he's done is produce. Like, if the Cardinals have a top 5 defense next year, you better believe he's going to be getting head coaching looks next cycle. Let's just hope that Steve Spagnuolo will rub off on Nick Rallis. It's like, listen, I like being in DC. I like Jonathan Gannon. I think I'm going to hang out for a decade. You can only hope. All in all, listen, things are moving in the right direction. Jonathan Gannon is instilling his values, culture building, leadership, coaching ability, personability. Like it's the roots are in the ground now. You see guys that he can pluck from the Eagles, other places, whatever it may be. The Cardinals have a face to their coaching staff that other players respect. And that is something that would only bear fruits for the future. Marv is going to be fine. He was fine last year. He's going to be fine plus next year. And the Cardinals coaching moves, tweaking, manicuring, making sure everything is perfect for 2025 so the Cardinals can absolutely explode. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Remember, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you tomorrow.